After went bankrupt, he wanted to give his last bit of money to the other woman, the one he always pined for. On our way to the registrar's office, he was dragging me along when we both got into a car accident and were reborn. Ethan immediately abandoned me after being reborn and confessed his feelings to the one he always pined for. He said tenderly, his eyes full of affection, "Before, I wasn't brave enough. Now that I have a second chance, I realize that people who love each other should be together." Of course, I let them have each other. Ethan brought the one he always pined for to show off in front of me. But when the rising star in tech wrapped me in his arms, Ethan completely panicked. I raised my hand, showing off the massive diamond ring on my finger, and smiled happily. "Without you, my life is so much better." I opened my eyes and looked around, a group of people surrounding me. Their faces looked somewhat familiar, tugging at memories from a long time ago. This was clearly my campus from college. How could this be? I distinctly remembered that Ethan and I were on our way to the registrar's office to get a divorce. Ethan had gone bankrupt, and I had stayed by his side for 3 days and nights, telling him I was willing to help him bounce back. Ethan looked at me for a long moment, then proposed divorce. I thought he didn't want to burden me, but unexpectedly, he said, "Phoebe is pregnant, that's my only child. I want her to have the baby. After the divorce, the house will be mine. Phoebe needs a secure place to await the birth." These words struck me like a bolt from the blue, nearly shattering me. I couldn't believe that my husband, with whom I had shared 20 years of our lives, had another woman and even a child on the way. What shocked me even more was that the woman was our college classmate, the one Ethan had always secretly pined for. "If you loved her all along, why did you propose to me?" I asked him with difficulty, only to be met with a sneer. He said, "Phoebe is too perfect, I wasn't good enough for her. But you had nothing, and a few sweet words from me made you completely fall for me." It turned out that everything in the past had been my own wishful thinking. I agreed to go to the registrar's office with him. But on the way, a bus suddenly lost control and crashed into us. Was I reborn? Ah, our male lead is here. The first big proposal of the year, just in time for Valentine's Day. As I was still in a daze, someone shouted, and the crowd immediately parted, making way for him. Ethan, holding a bouquet of red roses, slowly walked towards me. Ethan's eyes also held a hint of confusion. He looked at the vibrant roses in his hand, then at me standing opposite him, and his expression suddenly shifted from shock to excitement. The surrounding students were still cheering him on. "The student is going to propose. Get down on one knee." Is he too excited and forgot his lines? In my previous life, after my dad passed away, my mom remarried and practically ignored me. The sudden change left me desperately needing a shoulder to lean on, so when Ethan proposed to me, I accepted without hesitation. He was very considerate towards me, and we got married after graduating from college. There were no wedding expenses, no wedding jewelry, not even a proper wedding. Because family was very poor, he was a self-made man who had risen from a small rural town through his own efforts. His mother heard he married an only child from the city and was so happy that she hosted a small reception in their rural area. We paid respects to the elders, and that was considered the ceremony complete. At that time, Ethan held my hand, his eyes full of sincerity. "Grace, I've wronged you. When I have money in the future, I'll definitely give you a grand wedding." I accompanied him through his startup, staying up until 3 in the morning to write proposals, and living with him in a cold, cramped apartment. We started our own company, and we became wealthy. But with his newfound confidence, Ethan sought out the one he always pined for, the one he couldn't get in college, and took her as his mistress. Ethan's hand trembled slightly. He didn't look at me anymore but scanned the surrounding crowd, as if searching for someone. A thought began to form in my mind. Could it be? As I was pondering, Ethan's eyes suddenly lit up. He clutched the roses and strode quickly towards a corner of the crowd. A exquisitely dressed girl stood there. Her eyes curved into a smile, and her brown, voluminous waves were partially tucked behind her ear. Red stiletto heels accentuated her fair, slender legs. She carried the latest Chanel bag, making her appear both elegant and wild. "Phoebe, I've liked you for a long time. I swear, I won't miss you again." Ethan stopped in front of Phoebe and slowly knelt on one knee. "Please give me a chance to make up for the regrets of my previous life. Be my girlfriend, I'm willing to give you everything." Ethan was also a popular figure on campus. He entered this university as the top student in the province, stood at 180 centimeters, and was handsome, quickly attracting many admirers. He was a frequent sight on the campus confession board. Phoebe had originally come to watch the commotion, but she didn't expect the main character to propose to her publicly. Being proposed to by such an outstanding guy, a hint of smugness appeared in her eyes. However, Phoebe then glanced at me, standing in the middle, and she looked somewhat confused. It wasn't just her who was confused, the cheering students around us all stopped. They stared with wide eyes, their gazes shifting between the three of us. What's going on? Wasn't he going to propose to Grace? Why did he suddenly switch people? I think I smell some gossip. It's normal, right? Phoebe is the belle of the finance department, and her family is well off. But I heard her dad passed away, and her family's company is being liquidated and is about to declare bankruptcy. These discussions naturally reached Ethan's ears. He turned and saw me still standing in the middle, and his expression instantly changed. The guilt and panic in his eyes lasted only a moment before they hardened with resolve again. Ethan tightly grasped Phoebe's hand and loudly declared to everyone, "I set up this venue today specifically to propose to Phoebe. I don't know who made a mistake and brought Grace here." Looks of surprise, amusement, and schadenfreude fell upon me, making me feel like I had 1,000 needles in my back. Ethan then lowered his gaze to Phoebe, his eyes full of tenderness. He raised 3 fingers high in the air. "I swear to heaven, in this life, I will only love Phoebe. If I break this vow, may I be struck by lightning." What a declaration of being struck by lightning. I looked up at the clear sky, wondering why it didn't just strike this scoundrel dead. All the students looked at me. At this point, I couldn't just stand there without saying anything. I smiled and nodded. I was just pulled over here out of nowhere and was quite startled. Thankfully, it's just a misunderstanding, otherwise I wouldn't have known how to refuse. Hearing me say I would refuse, Ethan's body visibly stiffened. He narrowed his eyes, looking like he wanted to say something, and his face turned ugly. I pretended not to notice and continued, "Everyone has given their blessings, so I shouldn't fall behind. I wish you both to stay together, forever and ever. Don't ever separate, you two. A scumbag and his mistress deserve each other, they should be locked together. That way, they won't go out into society and harm others." Ethan seemed quite displeased with my attitude. He took a step forward, about to say something more, but I turned and walked away, giving him no opportunity. My roommate, Chloe, angrily followed behind me, looking back to glare fiercely at Ethan. Back in the dorm, Chloe pouted and Apollo giz to me. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have dragged you down there and made you so awkward." I patted her head soothingly. It wasn't her fault. Ethan had indeed intended to propose to me, but then he was reborn. I had nothing to be sad about. The pain and sorrow I had already experienced once in my previous life. I only felt some regret, regretting how good I had been to him back then. In those years, to help Ethan start his business, I stayed up until midnight every day. To save money, I lived with him in a dilapidated apartment that was only a few square meters and even leaked. To ensure he could have a hot meal, I commuted 2 hours by bus, back and forth between the company and our cramped apartment, for over a decade. I knew he had someone he pined for in his heart, but I thought, how could so many years of companionship lose to a fleeting moment of infatuation? In the end, my efforts only moved myself. However, the current Ethan is a poor student, living off scholarships and odd jobs. Half of the money he earns from odd jobs each month is sent back to his hometown for his mother and Kevin, his younger brother. This bouquet of flowers he bought today was from a flower shop near campus, and since it's Valentine's Day, the price wasn't cheap. In my previous life, I was worried Ethan would scrimp and save, so I transferred the money for the flowers to him as soon as I returned to the dorm. That's what kept him from going hungry in the coming weeks. The reborn Ethan seemed to have forgotten how tight his budget was in college, when he pinched every penny. I felt for him, and I could give him back the money for the flowers, but could Phoebe? I wanted to see if, without a financial foundation, Phoebe could still pursue a romantic relationship with him now. Just as I was lost in thought, my phone suddenly rang. As soon as I answered, I heard Ethan's impatient voice. "Grace, you've been reborn too, haven't you?" His tone was very certain. It made sense, after all, I was acting completely different from my previous life, and Ethan wasn't slow, so he naturally noticed that I, like him, had been reborn. I didn't answer, but Ethan became furious. "I admit I was unfair to you in our previous life, but we've both been reborn, so we should have our own new lives. If you're jealous, come at me directly. Why are you trying to sabotage my relationship with Phoebe? 6. I had originally thought Ethan called to apologize, but instead, he immediately started with accusations. He made me laugh out loud. What nerve, Ethan? Jealous of you? What is there about you worth being jealous of? Is it your poverty, or the fact that you're so dirty you don't wash your underwear for days? And you dare bring up the previous life. In my previous life, I must have been blind to fall for a scumbag like you. In this new life, you should just hide in a corner and not pop out to disgust people. Ethan was clearly infuriated. If you hadn't said something to Phoebe, why would she suddenly be cold to me? She was so happy when I proposed, and she even kissed my cheek before returning to class. I truly didn't understand why, when Phoebe suddenly became distant, Ethan's first thought was that it was my fault. You're a piece of trash who cheated on his wife, and she's the other woman who messed around with a married man. You two are a perfect match. No one needs to sow discord between you. My words made Ethan roar. Grace, you're going too far. How can you say that? I just made a mistake that all men make. What's so unforgivable about that? You think you're so great? Being exceptionally strong-willed is one thing, but you had to force me to be like you too. All I wanted was to come home after work to a wife with gentle words and a hot meal. But you forced me to start a business, forced me to strive for success. If you wanted the life you had as a pampered daughter, go fight for it yourself. Why did you expect me to create it for you? I was stunned. I never knew Ethan thought this way. But in my previous life, he clearly appreciated my shared journey and how I pushed him towards glory. I shook my head, almost getting brainwashed by him. You enjoy the benefits I bring, yet you resent me for it. Ethan, you're truly a hypocrite. If you didn't like it, you could have chosen not to be with me. Why did he expect to have his cake and eat it too? 7. Ethan fell silent. As I was about to hang up, he finally spoke slowly. I felt suffocated by you and wanted to divorce you. But everyone said they envied me, that I had a good wife, that I was blessed with incredible luck. It was as if I brought up divorce, I would be unforgivable, deserving of death, unfit to live in this world. So, in his heart, I was an inescapable burden, an unshakable pressure, endless torment. Taking a deep breath, I stated seriously, Ethan, it's all in the past. I'm starting a new life too. From now on, you and I are strangers, not interfering with each other, with no connection whatsoever. After saying that, I was about to end the call, but Ethan cried out. Grace, wait a moment. Transfer the money for the roses to me. I froze, thinking I had misheard. I stammered, what? Say that again? The money for the flowers, 521 yuan in total. Hurry up and transfer it to me, or I won't have food next week. I was thunderstruck for 5 seconds before bursting into laughter. I laughed so hard tears streamed down my face. Ethan, how can you have the nerve to ask me for money? Did you propose to me? Were the flowers for me? You actually asked me for money. But I did buy them for you initially. He seemed to realize this request was a bit much, hesitating as he negotiated with me. How about, you just give me 500, I won't ask for the change. How unbelievably generous. My voice was laced with sarcasm. The flowers were for whom? Ask them. Where's the one you always pined for, your goddess? Ethan seemed annoyed and frustrated. I asked Phoebe for it, but she just gave me a look and walked away. She hasn't transferred a single penny to me yet. I finally understood why Phoebe had suddenly become cold towards Ethan. Expecting the woman to pay for the proposal flowers, who would give him a good attitude for that? It was also my fault for being so foolish in my previous life, falling in love with such a stingy man. In an instant, the frustration that had been weighing on my chest since being reborn dissipated. I cheerfully consoled Ethan. Maybe she forgot? Why don't you text her again and ask? But don't come looking for me, what if Phoebe misunderstands? I finally wished him a bright future and happiness, then hung up the phone. 8. I thought Ethan and I had gone our separate ways, that even if we met on campus, we'd pretend not to see each other. But to my surprise, just a week later, he cornered me on my way back to the dorm. His expression was a bit unnatural, and he forced a strained smile. Grace, can we talk? I really didn't want to deal with him, but he blocked my path, and if we were misunderstood by other students, it would probably become a headline on the school forum. So, I went with him to McDonald's off campus. I also wanted to see what kind of trouble he was trying to stir up. I ordered an iced coffee, poked the ice cubes with my straw, and got straight to the point. I already made it very clear to you last time. I will absolutely not get involved in anything between you and Phoebe, so you don't need to come here in person to warn me again. He frowned, completely missing the point. How come you only paid for your own coffee? I rolled my eyes, dismissing it as nonsense. Then, he said something even more unexpected. Grace, help me pay my credit card bill. I wanted to feel his forehead to check for a fever, but then remembered we had no relationship anymore. But if we had no relationship, how could he so righteously ask me to pay his debt? That's exactly what I asked him. Why should I pay your debt? As soon as I asked, it was Ethan's turn to be surprised. Why? You always paid them for me before. It was true. In the past, whenever he hosted guests, attended social events, or even secretly bought luxury goods for Phoebe, I was the one who paid off his maxed-out credit cards. You're right, but in our previous life, we were married, we were husband and wife. Of course, I had an obligation to pay your debts. But now, we have absolutely no connection. How can you have the audacity to ask me to pay your credit card bill? He was stunned for a moment, then angrily slapped the table and stood up. Do you have to humiliate me like this? Grace, aren't you just jealous that I found true love and am happier than you, and you want to see me humiliated? Why are you still so petty? Fine, consider it a loan, okay? When I have money, I'll pay you back double. When I have money, he had used that empty promise countless times before. I wasn't an idiot. In my previous life, it was because I loved him and empathized with him that I willingly fell for his empty promises. Now, why should I spoil him? I tapped his head with my book. Get a grip and stop bothering me, or I'll post about you asking me to pay your credit card and then asking for a loan online. I knew Ethan cared deeply about his reputation, and I knew what words would truly sting him. I walked out of McDonald's under Ethan's furious gaze. 9. After my family company's liquidation was complete, my mom called me, and I immediately rushed home. She was already waiting for me in the messy mansion. Looking at the crooked family photo on the wall, I felt a little sad. Why couldn't I have been reborn a little earlier, back when my dad was alive? How wonderful that would have been. My mom pulled out a stack of documents, her eyes red as she looked at me. These are all yours. Check them, if there are no problems, we'll go get them notarized. My mom was a pampered wife, always cherished by M. Why Dad? Once my dad was gone, she became like a drifting tumbleweed. The fact that the company lasted half a year in her hands showed she had given her all. I flipped through the documents. Just like in my previous life, she had left most of the assets to me. I sighed and asked her, "Is that man good to you?" Her face instantly flushed, adding a captivating color to her haggard appearance. I knew that man loved her very much, but his only dissatisfaction was me, a burden. After she remarried, the man spent money on her, cherished her no less than my dad had, and even put her name on his will. However, his bottom line was not allowing my mom to contact me. My mom and I met with the lawyer, signed the agreement, and then I wished her a lifetime of happiness. My mom cried, holding my hand tightly. I wasn't a good mom, Grace, I'm sorry. But I truly couldn't do anything. I was so tired, I couldn't bear it. I nodded, patting her hand in comfort. Perhaps my familial connections were too weak. I couldn't hold on to anything. I was still sad, but then my mom saw the red sports car parked at the street corner and excitedly skipped towards it like a deer. Before the car drove off, she rolled down the window and happily waved goodbye to me. A knot formed in my chest, neither rising nor falling. 10. The money was quickly deposited into my account. I'm not used to living off past savings. Perhaps, as Ethan said, I'm too strong-willed and always want to do everything perfectly. But I have memories of my past life, so why shouldn't I make my life better? I turned my attention to the tech park. In my previous life, a senior from the physics department had recruited professors and a research team from our university to establish a new energy tech park. This project developed rapidly within a few years, and that senior eventually became a leading industry titan. However, I heard that their initial startup was very difficult. No one believed in them, they couldn't attract investment, and it almost failed. I looked at the balance in my bank account and smiled faintly. In my previous life, Ethan and I had to scrimp and save, ending up with nothing. In this life, I want to become capital myself, to be a powerful presence. I immediately contacted Julian, the senior. Hearing that I wanted to invest, Julian and his team personally greeted me downstairs at the academic building. The fanfare was even grander than Ethan's proposal. The seniors were all very enthusiastic, each looking at me as if they wanted to devour me whole. It was Julian who sternly told them off. "Everyone, settle down. If you scare her off, I'll flush all of you down the sewer." After touring their project, Julian looked at me with some apprehension. "Although we still have many technical shortcomings, in less than 5 years, no, 3 years, we will definitely grow stronger and bigger, and we will not disappoint you." Of course, I believed him. With memories of my past life, my confidence in the tech park was even stronger than theirs. I immediately agreed to invest. Aside from keeping enough for my tuition and living expenses for the remaining 2.5 years of college, I gave everything else to Julian. Julian's gaze at me could no longer be described as mere gratitude, it was as if I were his adoptive parent. He placed his right hand over his chest and bowed to me. "This is actually my own dream. I've selfishly led everyone to explore this path. Until today, I had thought about giving up, but then I received news that you wanted to invest." I smiled and interrupted him, winking playfully. "Then, senior, you'll have to repay me well in the future. Make me lots of money." But seemed to have misunderstood something, and I inexplicably watched his face turn red. 11. On my way back to the dorm, I also witnessed a scene. Ethan and Phoebe were standing at the cafeteria entrance, arguing fiercely. They were both famous figures in the school, one a handsome star student, the other a 2P beauty in the finance department. Their presence alone drew stares, let alone the well-known proposal incident. The curious onlookers had already gathered around, and newcomers were asking what was happening. Then I heard Phoebe pointing at Ethan's nose, her sharp voice piercing my ears. "I washed my hair, put on makeup, and spent half an hour choosing a dress just to go on a date with you, and you took me to eat at a casual noodle bar. Ethan, are you looking down on me? Or do you think I'm only fit to eat garbage?" Ethan seemed confused, and he tried to explain, "What's wrong with casual noodle bar? It's really delicious." I smirked. In my previous life, to save money, Ethan and I ate a bowl of casual noodle bar costing a few yuan almost every day, and we'd even pack up the soup to dip steamed buns in for dinner. Not wanting him to feel useless, I would always hug him and say, "Casual noodle bar is delicious, I really like it." He would nod in agreement while snatching the only sausage link from my bowl. Not every woman could endure that kind of life with him, and not everyone liked casual noodle bar. With so many people watching, Ethan's face flushed crimson. He desperately tried to maintain his cool star student persona, pulling Phoebe and trying to leave. "Don't be angry, I'm just a bit tight on money lately. When I earn some, you can eat anything you want. Come on, don't make a scene, everyone's watching." These words might have worked on the old me from my past life, but they wouldn't fool the current Phoebe. Phoebe angrily threw off Ethan's hand, showing him no respect at all. "If you don't have money, go earn it. What kind of relationship are you trying to have without money?" 12. Dating, indeed, costs money. Dates can't just be at the park, especially for a girl from a well-off family like Phoebe. A single skirt she buys while shopping casually costs Ethan half a month's worth of food. Not to mention birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries. For their 1-month anniversary, Ethan gave her a jar of paper cranes. 1 or 2 small handmade gifts can be charming, but constantly making them just screams stinginess. Ethan actually worked very hard. Because he came from a rural area, he tried to save as much as possible on living expenses. From the day I refused to bail him out, he started desperately saving money. Although he claimed he could succeed without me, he knew the importance of money more than anyone. But was the one he always pined for. He had missed out on his true love for one lifetime, and now that he finally had her, how could he bear to let Phoebe suffer any hardship? In the past month, Ethan had spent all the savings he had accumulated over a year and had also maxed out his credit card. He thought Phoebe would be touched, that she would give her all like me, even provide money to support him and his startup. Even if she couldn't, she should at least be like she was in his previous life when she was the other woman, a gentle, understanding companion, tenderly consoling him when he was troubled, and praising and adoring him when he was dominant in the business world. Phoebe looked at Ethan, who was still trying to grab her, and gave a disdainful smile. "Everyone, judge for yourselves." Last night, Ethan treated his roommates to dinner, spending over 1,000 yuan. After eating, he actually called me and told me to go pay the bill for him. We've only been dating for a month. Besides the flowers he gave me on the day he proposed, he hasn't given me anything decent, yet he asked me to go to a barbecue stand in the middle of the night to pay a bill of over 1,000 yuan. The surrounding students all started discussing it. But I wasn't surprised. I had spoiled Ethan. In my previous life, I felt sorry for Ethan working hard at odd jobs and often found excuses to give him money. 300 one day, 500 the next, and over time, he started to think that I giving him money was a given. Eventually, if he ran out of money, he would just directly ask me for it. But isn't me, how could she let Ethan leech off her? 13. Ethan panicked. With this matter exposed in front of so many people, he didn't know where to put his face. You didn't have the money anyway, and I ended up paying for it myself. Phoebe scoffed, even if that's the case, you wanted to go Dutch for dinner. Ethan froze. Aren't you just making trouble for no reason? What's wrong with going Dutch? Phoebe brushed back her long hair, her tone full of disdain. What's wrong with going Dutch? If we're going Dutch, why would I even be in a relationship? I can eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want on my own. Being with you just lowers my quality of life. Do you think that's okay? But other girls are fine with going Dutch, why aren't you? Every time we went out to eat, I would go Dutch with Ethan, making him think that all girls were like that. Now, seeing one who wasn't willing, left him completely baffled. Phoebe gave Ethan a sidelong glance. Then go find a girl who's willing to go Dutch. Anyway, I'm not. Or else, let's just break up. The students gathered around began debating the issue of going Dutch for meals. I think if it's not a good fit, they should just break up. Different spending habits won't last long. The proposal was so public, and it's only been this long, and they're already fighting like this. Dating naturally has costs. If you want to date but don't want to spend money, you can't have it both ways. Hearing mention breaking up, Ethan's attitude immediately softened. He pleaded with Phoebe, don't be like this. It's all my fault, I apologize. My scholarship will be disbursed soon. Once I get the money, I'll buy you the lipstick you like. I turned my head away to keep my laughter from being too loud and drawing attention. I'd heard similar promises too many times in my previous life. Grace, it wasn't easy for my mom to raise me. Let's bring her here, she can help us look after the kids later. The partners will transfer the money soon, and then we'll make a down payment on a bigger house. Grace, my brother's fiancé requires a house to get married. Let's transfer ours to my brother first. The final payment will be settled soon, and then we'll get a new one. Grace, this is my best friend. His girlfriend likes your bag, just give it to her. The funding will be complete soon, and I'll buy you a more expensive one then. In the end, none of his promises came true, and my compromises made his family think I was easy to take advantage of. In this life, I'm no longer going to be a sucker. I just wonder who they'll take advantage of now. 14. After the new, Julian, my senior, invited me to see their project results. At the tech park entrance, I actually ran into Ethan. He was holding a resume and straightening his hair using a compact mirror. When he saw me, his mirror dropped to the ground. Grace, what are you doing here? Are you here for an interview too? A flicker of caution and apprehension crossed his eyes. This park is only hiring one person. You know I was the top student in the province back then, and my current grades are also excellent. With me here, you have no hope at all, just go back. I hadn't expected Ethan to be here for an interview. I didn't want to engage with him and walked past him into the building. He chased after me, his anxiety betraying a hint of guilt. Not just anyone can enter here. Even if you see me and know you have no chance, you can't just barge in. I knew why he felt guilty. Ethan worked desperately to earn money, leading him to frequently skip classes, and his academic performance plummeted. The school cancelled his scholarship. Even if he had memories of his previous life, that was 20 years ago. Besides a few major events, who could remember everything? However, he, like me, still remembered that the tech park would become a massive success. So, he wanted to join it while it was still in its early stages of development. Seeing that I wasn't stopping, Ethan grabbed my wrist. His grip was strong, making my scalp tingle with pain. He warned me in a low voice, go back quickly, this isn't where you should be. Otherwise what? Before I could answer, a large hand wrapped around my waist, and the other forcefully pushed Ethan away. Ethan released me. He stumbled, nearly falling. When he angrily looked up and recognized the person, his fury instantly turned into flattery. Julian, hello. I'm Ethan, a junior in the computer science department. I'm here to interview for a position at our tech park today. I have many plans and ideas for the park, and I'd like to ask. Julian didn't listen to anything he said but instead looked down at my reddened wrist. He raised my hand to his lips and gently blew on it. Julian's actions made Ethan's eyes widen in shock, and my heart skipped a few beats. 15. Julian gave Ethan a dark look, then took me to tour the tech park. Along the way, we discussed many things. I tried hard to recall the park's development in my previous life and any potential drawbacks, telling him everything. Julian's gaze towards me became increasingly unusual. I actually felt a little ashamed. This was originally Julian's plan and hard work in the previous life, and now that I was saying it, I felt like a plagiarist. But thought I was being humble, and his impression of me improved by leaps and bounds. When we reached the office building, we happened to see someone escorting Ethan out, but he was holding on to the person. Please look at my resume again. I was the top student in the province back then, and I still receive a scholarship from the school. I'm truly excellent. If you hire me, I'll bring countless wealth to the park. The person struggled a few times but couldn't break free and was starting to get impatient. Student, please go back and wait for news, okay? You're only a junior, you should focus on your studies first. This was clearly a rejection, but Ethan was still persistent. To prevent him from making more of a scene, 2 security guards escorted him out. From afar, I could still hear his shouts, "Not hiring me is your loss. I can make this park succeed 20 years faster. Don't touch me, I'll walk out myself." I found it somewhat ironic that Ethan was still using his past glory as leverage. Everyone else was moving forward, but he only looked back at the past. Julian looked down and asked me, "Is he one of your admirers?" I smiled and shook my head. His character is too bad. Even if he were pursuing me, I wouldn't agree. Hearing my answer, Julian sighed. Suddenly, as if he had made up his mind, he gripped my hand. With my astonished and bewildered gaze on him, he pulled me and strode towards his office. "I still have a lot of plans, help me brainstorm them." I saw the tips of his ears were red, the flush extending down his neck. 16. Declining's offer to drive me, I insisted on going back by myself. As soon as I exited the tech park, I saw Ethan leaning casually against the wall. Realizing the time, he had already been waiting there for 3 hours. Seeing me emerge, Ethan sprang up, but perhaps from standing in one position for too long, his legs had gone numb, and he suddenly knelt on one knee in front of me. I quickly stepped back 2 paces. "Whether you're pulling a stunt or trying to get back together, I'm telling you, it's not happening." Ethan finally managed to stand up. Hearing my words, his chest heaved violently with anger. He pointed at the tech park and asked me, "You used the money for my startup to invest here?" I stared at him for a long moment, realizing he was serious. He actually thought my money was his. "Ethan, are you out of your mind? That's my money, I can spend it however I want. Even if I'm throwing money away, it's none of your business." Ethan gasped for breath. "What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You know I need money for my startup, yet you too. All the money, how can you be so selfish? Do you know how important this money is to me? You can't treat me this way just because you hate that I don't love you." He seemed delusional, but persisted relentlessly. "How much money do you have left? Give it all to me. It's useless with you, but after I start my business, I can multiply that money by 100 times. My face hardening, I swatted away his raised finger. "You're crazy, go see a doctor. Don't make me slap you." Ethan, seeing that I was serious, gritted his teeth. "Then I'll write an IOU, all right? Just consider it a loan to me. When I make money in a few years, I'll pay you back with interest." Just as he was about to continue pestering me, he was punched in the face. Julian's nose was still glistening with sweat, and his gaze was menacing, staring fixedly at Ethan like a fierce beast. Ethan, who had been knocked to the ground, clutched his face and shuffled backward. After his gaze swept over Julian and me, he seemed to realize something, then pointed at me and cursed, "You two-timing woman, you actually found a secret lover, fine. I knew it, that's why you gave all the money to him, UF******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Julian swung his fist again, and Ethan, clutching his mouth, ran off. After that day, Julian started frequently asking me out either for meals or coffee. At first, he used the project as an excuse, but eventually, he just started waiting for me at the campus gate. 17. I poured all my energy into my studies and Julian's project. But even being so busy, news of Ethan's affairs still reached my ears. My good roommate Chloe loathed Ethan after he made a fool of her last time. Whenever she heard anything about Ethan, she would immediately come running to share it with me. So, listening to the love-hate drama between Ethan and Phoebe actually became a diversion for me during my busy schedule. Grace, did you know Ethan got beaten up? He borrowed a lot of money from friends, saying he invested in a couple of promising stocks, but it's been half a year, and those stocks dropped instead of rising. All that money was tied up. His creditors said he was a fraud and demanded their money back, but he couldn't produce a single cent. So, the creditors hired people to beat him up. I knew which stocks they were. Ethan hadn't actually lied, but for them to rise, it would take at least 10 years. Did he pay the money back? Chloe nodded, telling me that Ethan had taken out online payday loans and scraped together enough to pay back his creditors. I heard Ethan even asked Phoebe for money for this. Not only did Phoebe refuse, but she also threatened to break up with him. It's only the beginning of the month, and they've already threatened to break up 3 times. I looked at the unfamiliar incoming call on my phone and blocked the number once again. My blacklist was almost full with calls from Ethan. I didn't have time for him because the graduation thesis defenses had begun. Due to my excellent grades, many large companies extended job offers to me at the campus job fair. While I was spoiled for choice, Julian also arrived at the job fair. Muyu Tech Park had long become a key project in the city, so Julian's appearance caused quite a stir. He was actually using recruitment as an excuse to ask me out to dinner. Just as Julian was walking toward me, he was stopped. Phoebe, holding her resume with both hands, her lips slightly parted, her eyes sparkling. Julian, please take a look at my resume too. I'd like to apply to be your personal secretary. Do you think I'm qualified? Phoebe tossed her long hair, revealing her fair, swan-like neck, and her prominent chest made her especially confident. Julian, who had been wearing a gentle smile a moment before, his face hardened. Our park is fully staffed. Phoebe stood on tiptoe, pouting her lips playfully. Oh? How can that be? I didn't even see you recruiting, Julian. When did you get full? Just now. So, please move aside. He sidestepped Phoebe's blocking hand and jogged over to my side. 18. After the job fair, Julian went to get his car, but Phoebe cornered me. She scanned me disdainfully from head to toe. You and Ethan seem to have some unspeakable secret. He's been looking for you lately. How about this? I'll give you Ethan, and you give me Julian, okay? If you think it's a bad deal, I can compensate you with some money. I heard your dad died, and your mom remarried, making you an orphan. I guess life must be hard for you. I just realized that spending too much time with an idiot really does make you dumber. I couldn't be bothered to explain. Trying to prove myself would only make me seem guilty. Besides, I hadn't truly seen Ethan more than a few times in this lifetime. It just made me feel a little sad for Ethan. You're so generous. I wonder how Ethan would feel if he heard you were giving him away. This was the one he always pined for 2 lifetimes. How ironic. Julian and I are a better match. She lifted the luxury bag in her hand, twirled in her miniskirt with a designer logo, then pointed at my unbranded t-shirt and sneered, "You're not worthy." I suddenly saw a figure approaching and my eyes darted. You've fallen for another man. What about Ethan? He loves you so much, he's so good to you. Phoebe interrupted me. Good? Just sweet words, that's all. A useless pauper. Dates were always the library or the park, meals were street food, and for my birthday, he actually folded paper cranes for me. It's laughable. Does he think I'm a little kid he can fool? I was just playing around with him. Who would ever fall for an idiot like Ethan? He'd always show me his high school awards, then go on about how he'd be rich someday. With his idiotic look, he'll never be rich in this lifetime. I tilted my head, looking behind Phoebe. Do you think she's right, Ethan? 19. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. From working odd jobs, he was sleep deprived, and stubbles grew on his chin. He was on the verge of a breakdown. Aunt's words were the last straw that broke his back. Ethan gripped Phoebe's shoulders and shook her violently. Haven't I been good enough to you? I pay for all our meals now, and you still refuse to eat street food. When you're thirsty while shopping, a glass of herbal tea costs over $30, and for Valentine's Day, you need a $300 lipstick. That doesn't even include the money transfers for anniversaries. Did you ever think of me? I asked you for money to start a business, which was for our future. Not only did you refuse, but you even got your roommate to laugh at me. Don't I have any pride? Just as Ethan tried to drag Phoebe away, a classmate came looking for him. Ethan, your mom's here. She's sitting at the campus gate, crying and wailing. Ethan didn't release Phoebe, but pulled her and ran quickly outside. Phoebe struggled a few times but couldn't shake Ethan off. She could only let him drag her away. Of course, I was also heading outside the campus. Julian was still waiting for me. As I passed the campus gate, a plainly dressed older woman was sitting on the ground, wailing and carrying on. I'm so miserable. I worked so hard to send my son to a prestigious university, but I never thought he'd be so ungrateful. He earns money but doesn't send a single penny home. Now there's trouble at home, and he's hiding from everyone. Ethan's face was beet red. He was pulling and pleading beside her, sweating profusely from anxiety, yet he was powerless. Seeing more and more onlookers gather, Martha's cries grew louder. I asked someone nearby and learned that Ethan's brother, Kevin, had broken into a house to rob it. The homeowner woke up, and in a panic, Kevin stabbed the homeowner to death. He has now been arrested by the police. I was stunned for a moment. This hadn't happened in my previous life. After thinking about it, I suddenly understood. In my previous life, Beck. As I supported Ethan, he sent all his money back home. Kevin had money to spend, so he naturally didn't need to take such a desperate risk. But in this lifetime, Phoebe not only didn't contribute a dime but also squandered all of Ethan's savings. This left Ethan with no money at all to support his family of origin. You can't abandon Kevin, he's your own brother. You have to find a way to get him out today, or else I'll bash my head against your school wall until I die, and make sure everyone knows what a heartless person you are. Martha was still making a scene, and Ethan, who was so concerned with his reputation, almost knelt before Martha in front of everyone. But was still relentless, insisting that Ethan come up with $300,000 to seek a letter of understanding from the victim's family for Kevin. Sweat blurred Ethan's vision. He suddenly grabbed Phoebe, who was beside him, and shouted to his mom, "Mom, this is my girlfriend. Her family is rich, she'll lend me $300,000. He turned to Phoebe, his eyes full of pleading. Everyone around them also looked at Phoebe. Phoebe raised her hand and slapped Ethan across the face. Ethan, you want $300,000 from me? Are you crazy? Why should I lend $300,000 to a murderer? And if I did, how would you ever pay it back? The hope in Ethan's eyes shattered bit by bit. He touched his stinging face, muttering to himself, how could this be? We were so happy back then, even when I went bankrupt, I gave you all my remaining money. I'm just asking to borrow $300,000, how could? Phoebe didn't pay any attention to what Ethan was saying. She looked at the students around them, then bit her lower lip in embarrassment. Dating you is more embarrassing than having a criminal record. Break up. Ethan, we're breaking up. Don't bother me again. With that, she lifted her chin, adjusted her long hair, and with the haughtiness of a goddess, walked away grandly. I decided there was nothing left to see. I found Julian's car on the street corner and got into the passenger seat. I apologetically explained why I was late. Before could ask about the commotion at the campus gate, my phone rang. It was a junior from my major. After I answered, I actually heard Ethan's voice. Grace, lend me $500,000. Huh? He asked Phoebe for $300,000 just now. How did it go up to $500,000 when he asked me? My no had barely left my lips when a bank account number was rattled off from the other end. Transfer it to me right now. As soon as you transfer it, I'll get back together with you. How ridiculous. He actually thought I'd give him $500,000 just to get back together with him. I rolled my eyes and raised my voice. No. Ethan panicked. Don't be ungrateful. I've already agreed to be with you this lifetime. Besides, even if we didn't marry in this life, my brother called you sister-in-law for 20 years in our previous life. How can you just leave him to die? Why couldn't I leave him to die? In my previous life, that kid mocked me for being a doormat to his brother, scorned me for being past my prime, and even encouraged his brother to divorce me quickly. I sneered, I just won't lend it. Grace, we had 20 years of history in our previous life. Isn't that worth $500,000? Feelings? How dare he bring up feelings? I remained silent. Ethan grew even angrier and roared, Kevin just turned 18. Grace, do you want to ruin him? How can you be so vicious? Julian snatched my phone. His deep voice, laced with anger, uttered only one word into the phone. Get out. 21. From that day on, I never saw Ethan again. While packing my things in the dorm after graduation, I happened to run into Chloe. From her, I learned that Ethan couldn't borrow money at school, so he resorted to borrowing from loan sharks and was now working odd jobs desperately to pay it back. Someone filmed a video of that day and posted it online, which generated a small buzz and affected the school's reputation. As a result, the school withheld Ethan's graduation certificate. He may have studied for nothing these past 4 years. There's also a rumor, I don't know if it's true or false. Chloe mysteriously raised a finger. I heard Phoebe is pregnant. My back stiffened. In my previous life, the reason Ethan decided to divorce me was Phoebe's pregnancy. I never thought she'd have Ethan's child in this life too. Perhaps they were meant to be a match made in heaven. But she went to the hospital and had an abortion. I nodded. Given's youthful prime and the fact that she lacked nothing, she naturally wouldn't have a child with a man burdened with debt and no future. But there was heavy bleeding during the surgery, and I heard she could no longer have children. Karma. I suddenly felt that perhaps there's a mysterious order to things, and those who betray true hearts will surely face retribution. Chloe then looked at me with shining eyes. Grace, honey, I also heard that you were the initial investor in Julian's tech park. Ah, you're so tight-lipped. You must be a wealthy woman now. Please take care of me. I promised to treat her to dinner, and that calmed her down. Carrying my belongings out of the campus gate, I actually saw Ethan. He was downcast and dejected, his face etched with hardship, with patches of grime on his clothes, giving off an unpleasant odor. Seeing me, looking radiant, sadness and anger flashed in his eyes. Ethan parted his chapped lips. I never thought Phoebe would be that kind of woman. She's absolutely dreadful. She actually aborted our child just because I don't have money, and now she's suing me, demanding compensation. I really didn't want to hear him ramble on. I tried to walk around him, but he blocked my path. Grace, I apologize, I admit my mistakes. Please give me another chance, okay? Let's get back together, let's get married, and will rise again. I flashed the large diamond ring on my ring finger and told him with a smile, I'm engaged. Julian? You too. He seemed a bit unsteady. Break up with him, break up. Throw that ring away. I'll buy you an even bigger and better one later. I looked at him with pity. You don't understand, Ethan. Our end was already sealed when you cheated in your previous life. You wanted to find true love, to live your ideal life. I didn't stop you, did I? But why are you regretting it now? Ethan gave a bitter laugh. True love. She became the other woman in my previous life just because she was after my money. She never truly loved me. Only you. He excitedly took a step closer, his eyes filled with deep affection. Grace, I know you still love me. Let's get married, can we go back to how things were? I swear I will never betray you again. If you want, I can make a public declaration of love for you at the campus gate. I'll let everyone know that I, Ethan, love Grace. A harsh horn blared, interrupting Ethan's declaration. Julian stepped out of the Bentley, took the things from my hand, and put them in the trunk. I waved at Ethan, who was standing frozen. This time, let's truly never meet again. End of main, sighed Ethan 1. I've actually been reborn. I've finally completely broken free from Grace's lectures, escaped her control, and can openly search for true love. I'm coming. In this life, I will bravely express all my love to Phoebe. I gave Phoebe the declaration of love that was originally meant for Grace, and we got together. Grace didn't seem to care at all. How could that be? She loves me so much, she must be seething with jealousy right now. I need to be careful, I can't let her harm my kind Phoebe. 2. To celebrate my rebirth, I invited my friends to dinner. But after we finished eating, I realized I only had less than $50 in my pocket. I'd actually forgotten how poor I was during college. But it's okay, I have Phoebe. Before, when I went out for social gatherings, whether I drank too much or it was too late, Grace would always rush over to pay my bill with just one call. Girlfriends are all like that, it's only natural. Phoebe arrived, but she seemed angry. She looked quite pretty even when glaring at me. I smiled and tried to say a few words to her, but she complained that my breath smelled of alcohol. Phoebe said, why should she pay? She said, if I didn't have money, I shouldn't pretend I did, and if I ever called her to embarrass her like this again, she'd break up with me. It's just about paying. Why did she bring up breaking up? In my previous life, I supported her as my mistress. Expensive watches, cosmetics, and bags, I gave her whatever she wanted. How could she now give me attitude in front of so many people just for asking her to pay $1,000? 3. I've been spending too much money lately, but refuse to go Dutch. Why do guys always have to pay when we eat out? In my previous life, when I was with Grace, we always went Dutch, and sometimes she even treated me. I'm so tired. My mom has called me 3 times already, urging me for money. I need to find a solution. I'm a reborn person. If I can't become super rich and successful, I'll have lived again for nothing. I asked Grace for money, but she refused to lend it to me. She even invested all the money that was supposed to be for my startup. It infuriates me. Grace said that we had no relationship whatsoever in this life, and she had no obligation to give me money. She said she could spend her own money however she wanted. Humph, she deserves to be unloved. She's just jealous of me, trying to force me to yield and marry her this way. I won't fall for that. I borrowed money from classmates and bought some stocks. I'd researched these stocks thoroughly, they were guaranteed massive returns. Damn it, I forgot these stocks would only soar after 10 years, but I need money now. My classmates all called me a liar and demanded their money back. What do I do? What do I do? 4. I asked Phoebe to lend me money, and she refused me again, threatening to break up with me again. In my previous life, Grace not only lent me money, but she didn't even ask for it back. Why? Why won't Phoebe? Why is there such a huge difference? Phoebe wants Japanese food today, and tomorrow she'll want the first cup of milk tea of autumn. Every holiday needs to be celebrated with ceremony. All of it is money. Money I painstakingly earned. Before, during holidays and festivals, Grace always prepared gifts for me, and I could make her happy for a long time just by giving her a jar full of folded paper cranes. Grace. I saw that Grace and Julian seemed to have a close relationship. She just wants to make me jealous. I don't have the energy to deal with her. When she comes pleading me later, I'll scold her thoroughly, make her reflect on herself properly, and then consider whether to accept her. Phoebe really isn't suitable for marriage. When it comes to settling down, I still need to choose someone like Grace. My mom came to school and made a scene because Kevin killed someone. In that moment, my mind almost exploded. The victim's family wants $300,000 to issue a letter of understanding, and my mom is forcing me to come up with it. Forget $300,000, I don't even have $300 on me. I asked Phoebe to lend me money, but she screamed about breaking up and even hit me. I finally understood. She never intended to marry me, never envisioned a future with me. That damn woman, she was just playing around with me. Damn her, when I get rich later, I'll become her sugar daddy again and make her regret it. It's just $300,000, Grace can give me $500,000. As long as I agree to get back together, she'll give me the money instantly. 5. How could this be? Grace won't lend me $500,000, and she doesn't want to get back together with me. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. She used to love me so much. If I sneezed, she'd worry all day. How can she ignore me now? Then, I heard a man's voice. He said, "Get out." So, Grace really fell in love with someone else. She didn't stay there waiting for me. She didn't want me anymore. I was truly scared. I desperately called her, but she didn't answer. The school won't give me my graduation certificate. Why? I was once the top student in the province, someone so many people envied. My mom forced me to borrow $300,000 from loan sharks. I can only desperately pay back the money now. I know my life is ruined now. I looked at my aged reflection in the mirror. I'm not even 30 yet, so how could I be so hunched over, like an old man in his 60s or 70s? I couldn't understand. I'm a reborn person, so why is my life worse than in my previous life? So this was my true life all along. Everything I had was given by Grace. She pulled me out of the mud, yet I thought she was my shackles. I waited at the campus gate every day. I wanted to apologize to her. I believe that as long as I swallow my pride, she'll definitely get back together with me. I saw Grace. She had become so beautiful. What did she say? She's engaged. No. Don't marry Julian. I know I was wrong. I can change. I'll never have another woman again. I'm willing to turn over all my money. Just give me another chance. What have I done? I was so horribly wrong before. Grace didn't look back. She and Julian walked away. So, I really wasn't worthy.